Welcome to the Keystone Project podcast, a place where we discuss kingdom stories, core values, and the Great Commission.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the Keystone Project podcast. Today we have with us missionary Will McCord. I think it's about 14 years he's worked with the Keystone Project. Been serving as a missionary down in Houston, Texas, living amongst a whole bunch of different internationals, Afghan refugees, Burmese refugees, all down there, ministering to them, making disciples out of them. He's also done a lot of work in Côte d'Ivoire. And we're really excited to have him on today. He's been a really good friend of ours for many, many years. I know he's been a very good mentor of mine for a number of years as well. So I'm very grateful for him. I'm very grateful, just to have him on today. And I think that you will appreciate some of the stories and the wisdom and the word that he's going to bring today. So, Yeah, and Will, you're actually with the Here to There movement in Houston, Texas, right?
That's correct.
And you're a ministry or a missions team leader. So I guess we just wanted to, first and foremost, give you an opportunity to kind of share what life is like for you and just kind of share what you're doing. Because I think there's a lot of churches, there's a lot of Christian leaders, there's a lot of people that I think want to be involved in missions, and they don't realize that they just simply have to kind of step outside their door and look with God-given vision.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thanks, James. Thanks, Charlie, for that introduction. My name is Will McCord. I'm a missions team leader with Here to There movement, also known as HT movement. You may hear me reference it as that. Yeah, I've been doing that for the last 3 years in the city of Houston. I did have another 3-year stint in the city of Houston as well, starting in 2011, from 2011 to 2014. The focus of Here to There movement really derives from the vision to make disciples of all the nations, to fulfill the Great Commission. And one of the things that is apparent as you travel throughout not only the United States, but North America, talking about Mexico City, I'm talking about Vancouver and Winnipeg and other Canadian cities, is the diversity. You can find areas of those cities that it's just full of people who are foreign-born, and we're not just talking about South Americans or Central Americans. We're talking about large populations of Gujaratis, of Nepalis, of Burmese refugees, of Afghan refugees, of people from a vast variety of Chinese influence or other South Indians. And so not even talking about all of the Nigerians, West Africans, South Africans, East Africans that are here in the United States. And so the opportunity is there for the taking. And so we really want to be intentional in engaging those people, because it's clear that God is giving us a grace to do that in this time in the world.
And specifically within those groups of people, you're looking, and I know this is really the same vision that we have within the Keystone Project, but you're looking for the unreached, right? Like and we know we've talked about this on the show before, but there are a lot of unreached people groups left in the world. There's more than I think people realize, within the church. And but you are. I know that you're not just, obviously you're focused on the refugee community, the
diaspora. Diaspora is a term that's used widely, meaning peoples spread throughout the globe. In fact, that's a term that's used in many ministries like ours.
Yeah.
When we talk about, because it's more than refugee.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than immigrant.
Yeah.
It's kind of all of the above.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so you guys are focused on identifying those type of people, though, and really targeting them.
Correct.
Living amongst them,
Mm-hmm.
Eating and sharing meals and getting to know them, in a deeper way than just simply like, passing by.
Yeah, so I think it's a couple things. It's one, awareness of the need.
Yeah.
Awareness of the need is important. Jesus says in Luke 10, verse 2, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray then to the Lord of the harvest that he would send more laborers into the harvest field. And so what Jesus is doing there at the very beginning is he's making awareness.
Yeah.
He's saying, here's the harvest.
Yeah.
It's plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there's an action point that comes from the realization of the need. And so, first you have to see the need. And I'm just going to speak for Houston in this moment right now, but part of what we try to do is connect the local church to the need.
Yeah.
Because we're a small organization. We're very few in number. But we have these legacy churches. We have these mega churches that are many, many, many people.
Yeah.
And it's astounding to me to talk to leaders and to talk to people that have lived in Houston their whole life, and they're totally unaware of the harvest potential in their city.
Kind of right in their back door.
Correct. Because as Americans, we can get into our rhythms, right? You have your house in suburbia. You get a car, 2 cars, 3 cars, however many you need.
Yeah.
Then you get in the car and you drive to work. And then you may stop at Costco on the way home. You may stop and get, coffee, whatever. But then you come home and you pull into the driveway. You go in the garage door and you shut the garage door, and then you're not interacting with the rest of the world. And unfortunately, it's the same for Christianity. We have these patterns of behavior that we fall into, and we just don't see the things that are around us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we get really comfortable in life, and we just kind of allow our comforts to choke us, choke out all of the opportunities that God really has all around. And in a lot of ways, we just have to simply step out the door and look. And I really think if we're looking with God-given vision, if we're really looking with God's eyes, we're going to see where the needs are, like you're talking about. And so, I think that's really important to recognize. Sometimes, we got to get outside of our comfort zone.
Correct.
And realize that if it's not going to maybe feel great, but that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think sometimes we get outside our comfort zone. We're like, this doesn't feel good, so I'm just going to go back because it may not feel like the right thing. But no, you kind of have to push past it and know this is God's heart.
Correct. So you have the awareness, right? And so then what's the next step? And it's funny because oftentimes we try to really complicate things with what the next step is.
Yeah.
With all of these elaborate strategies and apologetics and all of those things. And I'm not saying that those things are not important. There's a deep value for those things.
Yeah.
But we cannot skip past very simply befriending people.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Yeah, I look back on my childhood, and I wasn't necessarily the best at making friends, and there was an awkwardness, right, about trying to make friends with people that were, not even necessarily different than you, but just even making friends with the person right next door. Well, that's what we're doing with the nations. We're making friends with them. I remember when we first moved down to Houston this last time, so that would have been in 2020. went on a prayer walk in my community. And that's one of the best ways to get to know people in your community, is to just go on a prayer walk.
Yeah.
And so we're walking around. I'm walking with one of my friends. And we're greeting people as we're praying. We're pronouncing blessing over these homes. We're pronouncing blessing over these people. And I remember seeing a guy in full Muslim garb, big, bushy, white beard, and he is he's leaving his home. He's locking up, and he's kind of looking around suspiciously, and he sees us walking.
Yeah.
Two guys that kind of stick out like sore thumbs in our community. That's largely Pakistani and Bengali. And he kind of looks around, and then he kind of skitters off a little bit like he's afraid of us. And it just so happened that we were walking in the same direction as him, and we didn't really think anything of it. And eventually he stops dead in his tracks, and he turns around and he looks at us. He says, "I apologize for acting the way I did back there." I said, "Well, it's no problem. What's your name?" He said, "Well, my name is Abdurrahim." I said, "Abdurrahim, nice to meet you. I'm Will." He said, "Yes, I've lived here for 8 years. I'm from Ethiopia." I said, "Well, that's great." He said, "I acted the way that I acted with you because no one from the United States, no white person has ever greeted me the way that you greeted me." Wow. And I thought it was very strange.
Yeah.
But the more I've been thinking, he says, the more I think about it, it's what should be done. Yeah. I said, "Yeah, I'm so sorry that you've been treated that way." But I think that stories like that highlight just how far we are away from Jesus's heart sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we can tend to look at people and immediately judge them.
Yeah.
And think, well, they don't want to hear about Jesus, or they might get mad, or they might get offended. But it has to start with friendship. Yeah. It has to start with just greeting people.
Yeah.
I can't attribute this quote to anyone because I can't remember who said it, but it really struck me. I recently heard a man say, "The church does not need to be taught deep evangelistic strategies. The church needs to learn how to become friends with people again." And I think it's so true, because we've lost the art of just befriending people and loving people and serving people. And that's really, after awareness, that's really step one, is getting into their lives and befriending them at that level.
I mean, just love on people, and because people are starved, I think, for a lot of that. I mean, even just the other day when we went out on mission, just to the Rapid City area, and just hanging out with a lot of the homeless, people are just starved for affection, for love, for somebody to look at them and just notice them, talk with them, share a meal with them, and throw the football with them and stuff like that. It's just wild that how starved I think people are for that, and it's such an open door. And sometimes I think that's all that it takes to really make a good, deep, long-lasting connection with someone, and be able to share Christ with them, and that way is so transformational, I think, for a lot of them. But
I think I was just gonna say, like, the same when you really look at even this younger generation, they're very caught up in themselves, but at the same time, it seems like there's a lot of loneliness. Like, there's not really a lot of deep friendship, you know, and they don't know how to really be friends with one another.
How much of that do you think is from just getting caught up in, like, your just social media, people so engrossed in their phones?
I mean, I think it's a huge problem. I think that, people are entertained, and they've got things that are in front of them that are like, oh, I like this, oh, I don't like this. This makes me feel better, this does not make me feel better. And so the focus is constantly, what makes me feel better? What does not make me feel better? What makes me look better? What does not make me look better? And so I think that it's just a huge problem that we have in the United States, and we're so self-focused. We have a really hard time just getting past ourselves to actually even get out there and reach the lost.
For sure. I think, though, you mentioned the United States. This is an issue globally.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a growing issue. As I've traveled globally, it's becoming more and more common that whether I'm in West Africa or wherever I might be, I'm meeting people that have nicer phones than I have.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that it is, and people spending time on their phones in that manner. But I think the common denominator is this: that relationship, true, genuine relationship, really does break through in all of those situations. It doesn't matter if it's in India, China. Doesn't matter if it's in West Africa or the United States, South America.
Yeah.
The true and genuine friendships and relationships, that's really what breaks Christ's grace, love, and peace through in their lives.
Yeah.
Is those relationships.
Realness, and that's definitely, no, I think that's totally true, because there's this, like you're talking about, James, when we're sharing the gospel with these homeless people in Rapid City, you can tell they just want something real. They don't necessarily even know what that is, but they want something that's truthful, that's real. And giving someone something that's genuine is just, they eat it up, because there's not enough of that in this world right now, all around us.
Yeah.
I got off of social media for a couple of years, and I remember it was shortly even actually before I came back on with the Keystone Project. I remember it was like God kind of showed this to me, because I was having a hard time with it. I was like, I don't want anything else to do with social media anymore. And I just remember him kind of showing me, look, there are people that are lost, that there's a large amount of people, and this younger generation is on social media. And if we don't engage with them, how are we going to be able to reach them? Yeah. And it was just kind of one of those things. So there is this balance where it's obviously social media and technology can really hurt us in a lot of these ways in terms of getting past ourselves. But at the same time, we still have to engage with the lost within those platforms.
Yeah, it's an incredible platform to be able to reach. A massive amount of people that are on there. But I know, especially for young people, their entire lives are on their cell phones. It's all on social media. It's like reality is more whatever's happening on their phone than what's actually going on in reality. That is their reality. It's their cell phone and everything going on there. That's more of a reality for them than anything else going on, an actual reality, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. But to your point, Charlie, I think it's important. Discipleship in all of those veins is important, because what's more likely that we put out this call to this generation to say, throw your phones away and live a life of asceticism.
Yeah.
Or we reach them in all of these facets.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're reaching them. We're living out a kingdom lifestyle on our social media.
Yeah.
We're living out a kingdom lifestyle in our lives, and in our families, and inviting people into those things, in our jobs, in our school. We're living out the kingdom in all of those, and then discipling others to do the same.
Yeah.
Because that's powerful. It's powerful to show people there's a different way to do this.
Yeah.
Because the world and its desires are going to try to pull us and push us in various ways.
Yeah.
And Jesus, the way that he discipled, he wasn't he wasn't telling people, leave the Roman influence.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying, hey, you can live in this influence and you can be my disciple and you can live in my kingdom even under that influence.
Yeah.
And you can be a light to all those that are the same as you or come from that same walk of life. And that's what we need to do. And we need to, as followers of Christ, we need to point people in that direction and model that for them.
Yeah, definitely. I like how sometimes people will say, that passage of scripture that says in the world but not of the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, what's the reference to that? You know what I mean? Anyways, it kind of reminds me of that. But it is true. Like the saying is true. Like we are in the world, but we are not of the world, and we do have to live above the world's standards.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we still have to live in this world and make sure that we are reaching as many people as we can.
You should be influencing culture, whatever culture you're in, rather than having that culture you're living in rule and dominate over you and dictate.
Yeah,
how
exactly.
You're gonna live. You want to have an influence, an impact on that.
Yeah.
Outside of it, but.
So, how are you doing this like on a daily basis in Houston? How's it getting done?
Trying to think about how granular I want to get in telling you this. On a day-to-day basis, there's a variety of different things that we're doing. I mentioned local churches, and so one of the things that we try to do is not only make disciples ourselves, but we see ourselves as a conduit, right, to the local legacy churches, and when I say churches, I am referencing fellowships of believers that are in the community, and we want to be able to be a conduit for those people into the mission, because the thing that I hear often is, I want to be an agent of change. I want to be someone who evangelizes. I want to be someone who makes a difference, but I have no idea where to start.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we see ourselves as, is a catalyst. We want to be able to catalyze people for that. And so we'll train them. We'll model the ministry for them and bring them alongside of us as we go and do that. We'll make mistakes together. We'll have successes together, and so inviting others into that, because we live. I think you referenced this a little bit ago. We intentionally live in areas where high concentrations of these people are, and I'm talking about diverse. That diaspora that we mentioned earlier. So, for instance, right now we live in an area of the city of Houston that is a high population of South Indian grad students and young professionals, as well as Han Chinese grad students and young professionals. The two nations in the world that have the highest number of unreached people groups, China and India. So it's deeply strategic for us to live there. And so we are prayer walking. We're getting out into our community and talking with people. We're serving them. One of the things that a lot of the students in our area really struggle with is just getting furniture.
Yeah.
And so, that's a problem. And so we help them try to source furniture. And so we'll partner with local churches and say, hey, do any of your congregants have sofas they're giving away, or rugs they're giving away, or end tables you're giving away?
That's a cool idea.
And so then we'll partner with them to deliver those things to their homes. We'll get contact information. We'll follow up. It oftentimes turns into, sometimes it's kind of dead ends, where it's just like, thanks for blessing us.
But you're planting a seed.
But it's okay.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Somebody else can come and build,
Yep.
or water. Water.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that you realize very quickly, if you're going to live this life, is that no is okay.
Yeah.
No is okay.
Yep.
You know, I was an atheist until I was 18 years old. I told a lot of people no.
Yeah.
And here I am now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm going to hear no a lot, and I'm okay with that.
Yep.
But we keep spreading the seed of the Word of God, and so we'll have follow-up meetings where oftentimes we're eating food together, and so I've become a connoisseur of all sorts of international dishes, and to be honest with you, it's one of the greatest things I lament for Americans.
Yeah.
Is the food.
Seriously.
Well, I mean,
cuisine.
that we're missing out on so much. You know,
there's so much good food out there in the rest of the world. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
It's amazing. If you could just sit down on the floor with a family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
some biryani.
Eat some biryani. It's
chicken 65.
100%. And so, that's also why we moved into an Indian area. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the real reason.
Yeah. No. But I do have to say, and I know this sounds flippant and ridiculous, but eating the food of the people that you are ministering to goes a long way.
Yeah.
There's a few things that, as my wife Tara, and our 5 children, as Tara and I have parented our 5 children, one of the things that we said is our children will be taught to eat everything that is put in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is amazing to see how the people that we're ministering to light up when our children are eating what they've cooked. They're not expecting a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They're not expecting chicken strips. They're not expecting pizza. But they're eating the rice with their hands. They're gnawing on the chicken bones, just like the others in the house.
Yeah.
Because there's just there's a reason. There's a reason why there's just such a conduit of relational openness around a dinner table when you're enjoying food together, when you're enjoying culture together.
This guy actually, it's interesting. This guy shared this story with me over this past training we did. He's from Côte d'Ivoire, and you probably know this. If you go into a village and they offer you food, if you don't eat the food, you can't reach the village. Yeah. They will not listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly insulting if you don't.
They're like, look, and they were kind of showing me, it was kind of like this nut or something that they were kind of like, look, this we offer, usually if you go to a village, they'll offer you like this. It was like a nut, legume or something. And they had me try it right then and there. And it was not good. It was so bad. Like, it really.
They brought some from
Yeah, they brought some. They had brought some. And it was like, this does not taste that great.
But they were testing you to see if you would be
But
a
it
good
was
coach
like,
or something?
but I wanted to try. I was like, look, I'm not going to not try this.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm going to try this because this is what it's like. When you go into a village, they offer you something. They want to know, are you going to respect our customs?
Yeah.
And you have to, you got to make a choice in that moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't do, if they'd ask you to stab somebody, you're not going to stab somebody. You know what I mean? But like, there is like a degree where we do have to make sure that we are walking in the Spirit and really respecting their customs so that we can reach them.
Yeah.
As Americans, we kind of walk around all boisterous and loud and expect everybody to kind of just do what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a huge reason why getting back to like friendship, like not knowing how to make friends. I think that's a huge reason why we haven't reached the unreached in the United States very well, and that's because we as Americans just kind of are very like forward. We're just doing our thing, and we're not really stopping to understand.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
well, and I think it's a really simple decision-making process for me. And because one of the things, and I'm just going to speak very plainly, one of the things that the church and Christians in the United States expects of those people, that diaspora that's coming to the United States and to these Western nations, is we're expecting full assimilation. Become like us. Learn our language, learn our customs, do our things. Yeah. And I understand why that is.
Sure, yeah.
You know, there are certain things that need to be left back in the country that they came from. But if there's a difference between asking them to assimilate to Western culture or United States culture and inviting them to come into the culture of the kingdom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a big difference.
There's a huge difference. Yeah. Unfortunately, we in the West have equated.
We've conflated the two.
Yes, we've equated this equals our culture equals Christ.
Yeah.
Right. Equals the highest expression of Christianity.
Yeah.
And it's just not the case. And so we have to be willing, friendship. We're back to friendship. We have to humble ourselves. And say, you know what? Maybe my ideas about things are not the best.
Yeah.
Maybe the way that I've always done things is not the best. I would like to get to know what you do. I would like to get to know your culture. I would like to celebrate you. And when you do that, there's a certain openness that comes from just laying your life down in that manner.
Yeah, I do think over the past 40 years in the United States, you have seen some pretty massive demographic changes take place, and a lot of it's due to the massive influx of immigrants from all over the world. I think America has 51 million migrants. I think the next in line is Germany at 15 million or something like that. So by far, America is bringing in more immigrants than any other nation in the world. And I do think maybe particularly Christian conservatives tend to look at a lot of these immigrants coming in as though they're
afraid.
It's like they're afraid that they're losing a lot of their Western cultural heritage, which they do see as very Judeo-Christian.
I think there's also and just going to say it bluntly, I think there's a fear of terrorism after 9/11, and I think it's kind of sad because I think God is bringing the nations to our country. Not that I agree necessarily that we should have people just pouring across the border, whoever it is. I think law and order is important, but I think God is bringing the nations to our country.
Yeah, and
we still have to do something.
It's a mistake to look at these people as enemies.
Yeah,
to look at them as though they are what is, really destroying our our cultural values, the things that make Americans Americans.
And we can look at them. We can look at them like that.
Yeah.
And even let's just for argument's sake say that immigrants coming in from all of these different nations will destroy our economy, will give rise to terror, will give rise to the corruption or destruction of Western culture.
Yeah.
Let's just for argument's sake say that is the case.
Yeah.
Now, the next question is important. Am I willing to suffer those things for the sake of the gospel?
Yeah.
Because that's the important question that has to be answered. The question that has to be answered is, am I willing to sacrifice like the early church sacrificed?
Yeah.
Am I willing to give everything to see disciples made of every tribe, tongue, people, nation? Because that's the grace that we're experiencing right now. That's the grace that, by God's grace, we've been able to walk in with HT Movement and identifying these places in North America. Right now, we have teams in a variety of different cities in North America, and there's many more that we could have teams in that would be worth planting a team there, because there's so many people.
There are.
There are.
Yeah.
There are.
We need to reach them.
And I was just looking at demographics earlier today. There's in North America, there is 7 of the top 10 cities in the world with foreign-born population are in North America.
Yeah.
7 of them.
You've got 17,291 people groups in the world. 42.4% unreached. 7,253. And I think in this day and age, with technology, with communication, to have that many people groups, 7,253 people groups, still unreached. Yeah. I think God is doing something, and I think we need to wake up. We need to recognize He's bringing the nations to us.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that are standing there, pushing them away.
Yeah.
And again, I understand there's a lot of political. This is like a politically charged
correct
conversation for a lot of people. But we have to look at some of these things with a missional perspective. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are things where I'm like, I really don't like the idea of just anybody coming across the border.
Correct.
I'm one of those people that is not, I'm not going to just sit here and say I'm okay with all of that.
Correct.
But I do think that there comes a point where we have to say, you know what, God, you're bringing people to us. I'm not going to sit back and do nothing about it. I need to engage. And that's why what you guys are doing is so awesome. And I know that I just wish that we had more, organizations, more teams doing what you guys are doing. Yeah. Sorry, I got a little heated there. I just, this is something I'm really passionate about. I want to see us stop walking in fear, and really understand God. You're doing something. We need to kind of recognize what He's doing.
Yeah. So. Well, let's paint the picture this way. You said around 7,000 unreached people groups left in the world. 7,000 unreached people groups in the world. There are, by estimates, there's over 3 billion Christians in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's whittle that down, because I think that number is a little exaggerated.
It's probably a little inflated.
So let's go some orders of magnitude less than that.
Yeah.
Let's go down to 30,000. Okay, let's go down to 30,000 born-again, Spirit-filled believers. Let's take 30,000 out of that 3 billion.
Okay.
Well, now what we have is 4 missionaries per unreached people group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so we have 4 missionaries per unreached people group.
Yeah.
In this day and age, we can travel anywhere, almost anywhere, and do almost anything. And so, not only that, but the church, estimates are that the church globally has somewhere in the range of about $25 to $40 trillion in assets.
Yeah.
Can we liquidate some of those assets?
Is this the Catholic Church included?
That probably includes the Catholic Church. But
curious.
But again, let's orders of magnitude less.
Sure.
It's like with Gideon's army. Let's whittle it down. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's go down to $300 million.
Yeah.
We could pretty easily in the United States come up with $300 million.
Yep.
And so okay, everybody, all of those people, all of those teams each of those missionaries would have. The point is this: we have everything that we need, and we have no excuse. The reason is that we truly do not believe that the Great Commission is the paramount purpose of the church.
Oh yeah.
That has to be the conclusion.
Yeah.
Because we have no excuse.
when you look at the numbers, and James, help me out with these numbers if you remember them. The amount of, when you look at unreached, the amount of the number of unreached people groups, and then you look at the total number of missionaries worldwide, which is, I think, is about 400,000 something, and then you take the amount that are actually missionaries to the unreached people groups. It's mind blowing how small of a number it is, and it just kind of goes to show what you're saying. Even within missions, missions organizations, even, I think, are having a hard time understanding that we need to reach the unreached in the world, and if we're going to get it done, we kind of have we got to get back to the basics of
I think it was Global Frontier Missions says 3.3 billion people have no realistic access to the gospel, and less than 3% of cross-cultural missionaries are working amongst the most unreached people groups.
Less than 3%.
Yeah. And just let me just give you a story that maybe illustrates some of that. I was right before the pandemic, I was in Côte d'Ivoire, and Côte d'Ivoire has, I think it's like 39 unreached people groups. Not all of those groups are indigenous to Côte d'Ivoire. There's a lot of migration in West Africa, and so you're going to have some partial people groups that are there. We had a training in Côte d'Ivoire, and we were casting this vision of let's adopt an unreached people group and let's raise up indigenous leaders that can go and reach these people. Okay? And so we go through the entire training, we're casting this vision, we're having people say, yes, I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And when rubber met the road, I'm trying to put logistics together so that we can go visit this unreached people group and make contact with them and begin to love on them and make friends with them and things like that. Like I said, eat their food, share in their customs, things like that. One of the pastors, he said to me, so you really think we're going to do this and go up there? I said, yeah, this is the big game. The pregame speech is over. This is where we're going to do this. And he said, if you go up there, they might kill you. They might kill me. Yeah, it might be that. They killed Jesus. Yeah. They killed Peter. They killed Paul. We have to get to that place where our lives are nothing. Yeah. Are nothing for the sake of the gospel. Yeah. That's the only way that we're going to reach these last people groups. Yeah, and even here, I know that the United States is much safer, but it's a different kind of dying to self. It's a different kind of dying to self because we live in apartment complexes. I got to tell you, I've lived in apartment complexes that are infested with cockroaches and rats. Mm-hmm. And all sorts of crime issues around us. And people ask us, why do you live there? Because that's where the unreached are. Because that's where our Nepali friends are. That's where our Burmese friends are. That's where our Pakistani friends are. I can't live in good conscience, live in a suburb, in a gated community, and commute in and try to sell them on something that I'm not willing to sacrifice for. Yeah. We have to sacrifice for this. And we have to show them that it's worth sacrificing for. Otherwise, will they? I don't think they will. They may come to your church. They might become a church member. They may even come into the kingdom. But are they going to buy in at the level that they're going to go back and bring that message to a people that are willing to kill them, willing to imprison them, willing to do whatever to stop the gospel from going? If I don't exhibit that level of sacrifice and devotion, they won't.
That's right. We got to die to self before we get to the village. We can't decide. If you haven't died to self, back here and
Yeah.
comfort, then you're going to have a hard time when you get out there.
Yeah.
And you're going to say no every single time to going out.
For sure.
And so we got to die to self and live for him, So I thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. And, I know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the United States. And I guess I just want to encourage, and I really hope anybody who's been listening, I hope this has been an encouragement for you and maybe eye-opening for you. There's a lot of work to be done here in the United States. Open your door, go outside, and ask God to show you the nations, and he will show you the nations. Yeah. I really believe that. And if you need... I really think that as God shows you the nations, as you ask him to show you, he's gonna tell you to do something. Yeah. He's gonna give you some direction, And so I just really appreciate what you guys are doing with HT Movement. And for those of you who just want to know a little bit more about them, you can visit their website, htmovement.com. And Will, is there any other way that they can get connected?
Yeah, that's the best way, is going to htmovement.com. If you want more info, you can email us at info@htmovement.com. But yeah, we keep it pretty, because we do work in some closed countries. We've commissioned missionaries. We've commissioned indigenous missionaries back into China, back into Nepal, back into areas where they aren't necessarily safe being plastered and being associated with us. Yeah. So even our website is kind of intentionally vague or ambiguous. No pictures of us or any of our people on it. And so the best way to do it is just go onto the website. There's a tab on there, or if you scroll down, you can see ways to get involved, ways to learn more about us, and shoot us an email at info@htmovement.com.
Awesome.
And if people wanted to support you, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, you could support any of our missionaries on our website. If you go to htmovement.com. And I believe you can go to support, and you can see a list of our missionaries from the drop-down list. If you wanted to support my family in particular, you'd find our names in that drop-down list, Will and Tara McCord. Awesome. And we'd appreciate any support. And we do have some special projects that are on our website from time to time. Cool. For us as we travel overseas, because we do try to take these disciples that we're leading to Christ here, and then casting that vision to go back to their home countries to make disciples. And so we'll do that usually once a year, where we're traveling overseas, and so sometimes we're raising special funds for those trips, and you might be able to see that under the special projects tab on HT Movement's website.
Awesome. Well, it's really cool. And just once again, I just want to say thank you so much for talking with us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And we just pray blessings over your ministry, over everything that God is doing in you and your family.
Amen.
And so I just want to end our show by just sharing this quote from C.T. Studd. He said this. I think it really goes along with what we've talked about. He said, "Some wish to live within the sound of a chapel bell. I wish to run a rescue mission within a yard of hell."
Thanks for tuning in with us. If you want to know more about the Keystone Project and how you can support our ministry or launch disciple-making movements in the nations, go to keystoneproject.org or find us on all the major social media platforms.